Have you ever met someone who is completely, genuinely at peace being single? We aren't talking about the people who say they're fine, but secretly spend every night swiping through dating apps, hoping for a match. We are talking about the individuals who have completely unplugged from the matrix of modern romance. They aren't hunting for a partner, they aren't trying to catch anyone's eye, and they genuinely do not care about the endless, exhausting cycle of chasing love. When you see someone living like this, it can be deeply confusing. In a society that constantly tells us we need a significant other to be complete, seeing someone walk the opposite path feels almost unnatural. It's incredibly easy for outsiders to look at them and jump to negative conclusions, assuming they must have given up, that they're too broken to try anymore, or that they've become bitter and cynical about the world. But if you look under the surface, the psychological reality is entirely different. This isn't a sad story about loneliness or giving up on hope. It is actually a massive, high-level psychological shift that represents the ultimate form of self-mastery. These individuals haven't built up walls out of fear. Instead, they have built an unshakable foundation of self-respect. They have looked at the current dating landscape, the games, the mixed signals, the endless validation seeking, and the emotional burnout, and they made a conscious, calculated decision to opt out. They realized that pouring their limited time and mental energy into a frantic search for romance was actually draining their happiness rather than adding to it. So they chose a different path. They decided to fiercely prioritize their own emotional health, their personal goals, and their absolute peace of mind over the low-return investment of chasing people who aren't ready to meet them halfway. This decision to step back is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness or social withdrawal. But clinically speaking, it is one of the highest expressions of emotional intelligence you will ever witness. It takes an immense amount of maturity to stop outsourcing your self-worth to strangers on an app or fleeting sparks at a bar. The people who stop chasing love aren't broken, they are highly evolved. They understand that their value as a human being is not dependent on a relationship status, and they refuse to compromise their standards just to avoid being alone. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on this exact mindset. We are breaking down the deep, hidden psychology behind why people choose to stop running after romance, how it completely transforms their mental well-being, and why this seemingly quiet exit from the dating scene is actually the bravest, most empowering move a person can make. People do not just wake up one random morning and decide to completely stop dating for no reason at all. It is never a random, spur-of-the-moment whim. Instead, it is almost always a deeply calculated, strategic move designed to protect themselves from absolute emotional bankruptcy. To really understand this, you have to look at the brutal reality of the standard modern dating cycle that so many of us get trapped in. Think about how it usually goes. You meet someone new, you feel that initial spark of excitement, and you decide to invest your finite time and energy into them. You stay up late texting, you arrange your busy schedule around their availability, and you naturally start getting your hopes up about where things could go. But then, the predictable downward spiral begins. Slowly but surely, you end up feeling completely underappreciated. You get blindsided by sudden ghosting, or you find yourself entirely drained from carrying the weight of a one-sided connection. It is an exhausting roller coaster of high expectations, followed by immediate disappointment. When you go through this draining cycle enough times, a major internal shift happens. Highly self-aware individuals eventually step back, look at the big picture, and run the numbers on their own life. They realize that the return on investment for constantly chasing love simply isn't worth the immense psychological stress it inflicts on them. They recognize that they are essentially gambling with their mental health, pouring premium energy into people who treat them like an option. This realization is the exact moment they decide to stop outsourcing their personal happiness to strangers. They stop looking at their phone waiting for a text message to dictate whether they are going to have a good day or a bad day. They take that exact same massive reservoir of emotional energy, the effort, the care, the attention, and the romantic pursuits, and they completely pivot it back toward themselves. This pivot is where true transformation happens. They look inward and acknowledge a fundamental psychological truth. You cannot give away what you do not already possess. They realize they have been trying to fill up other people's cups while their own well was completely dry. By stopping the frantic chase, they take full accountability for their own well-being. They understand that it is their responsibility to meet their own emotional needs, heal their own past wounds, and build an internal sense of security first. They recognize that trying to rush into a relationship to escape loneliness is just putting a temporary band-aid on a deeper issue. So instead of desperately searching for a partner to complete them, they commit to becoming whole on their own, ensuring that their cup is overflowing before they ever even consider sharing it with someone else. The individuals who make the conscious choice to step away from the dating scene aren't acting at random. They almost always share a very specific, powerful set of core personality traits. First and foremost, they are fiercely independent. They have built a life where they don't rely on someone else to handle their logistics, fix their mood, or validate their existence. Alongside this independence is a deep capacity for introspection. These aren't people who live on autopilot. They are constantly looking inward, analyzing their own behaviors, and figuring out what truly makes them tick. Because of this high level of self-awareness, they become incredibly protective and highly selective about who gets access to their mental and emotional energy. They realize that their peace of mind is a finite, valuable resource, and they refuse to hand it over to anyone who brings chaos, mixed signals, or unnecessary drama into their world. A large percentage of these mindful singles also lean toward being introverted, meaning they genuinely enjoy their own company and look forward to spending time alone. While the rest of the world views an empty evening as a symptom of loneliness, these individuals view it as a luxury. They don't need a constant stream of social interactions, crowded bars, or superficial dates to feel alive. Instead, they recharge their batteries in absolute solitude, finding immense clarity in quiet reflection, personal hobbies, and their own thoughts. This ability to sit comfortably in a room by themselves completely changes the game. It means they never find themselves entering a bad relationship just because they are bored or terrified of the silence. They have turned their alone time into a sanctuary rather than a prison, which gives them a massive psychological advantage over anyone who uses dating as a distraction from themselves. It is also important to address the elephant in the room. Yes, many of these people have experienced heavy heartbreak, deep rejection, or emotional neglect in their past. Those painful experiences are often the exact catalyst that force them to draw a line in the sand and establish rigid boundaries. However, the crucial detail to understand is that their current state of singlehood is absolutely not driven by bitterness, anger, or resentment toward the opposite sex. They haven't given up on the world out of spite. Instead, their lifestyle is driven by pure emotional mindfulness. They have completely healed from the victim mindset and stepped into a place of total accountability. They look at past wounds not as reasons to hate dating, but as data points that taught them exactly what they will and will not tolerate moving forward. Ultimately, this entire mindset boils down to a profound understanding of self-worth. These individuals know, with absolute certainty, that trying to force an unnatural connection with the wrong person only leads to a downward spiral of chronic anxiety, second-guessing, and diminished self-esteem. They have been down that road before, and they refuse to walk it again. So, rather than forcing pieces together that clearly do not fit, they make the executive decision to deliberately clear out all the romantic noise, the games, and the superficial text chains. They redirect that exact same time and focus toward building a concrete, high-quality life that they are actually obsessed with living. By doing this, They create an internal foundation so strong that a romantic partner ceases to be a necessity for survival and instead becomes nothing more than a potential bonus to an already fulfilling journey. There is a massive, completely inaccurate misconception in our culture that people who stop pursuing romance are somehow lonely, emotionally cold, or deeply unfulfilled. Society loves to paint this picture of the chronic single person sitting alone in the dark, miserable and shutting out the world. But in reality, if you actually talk to these individuals, the exact opposite is true. They are almost always the most grounded, centered, and genuinely happy people in any room they walk into. Why? Because they have completely disconnected their emotional thermostat from outside forces. They do not rely on a casual text message, a swipe on an app, or a compliment from a stranger to dictate whether they are going to have a fantastic day or a terrible one. Their emotional stability is entirely self-generated, which gives them a level of calm and control that most people spending all their energy on the dating market can only dream of. Instead of burning out over romantic dead ends, these individuals redirect that massive reservoir of time and energy into building a high-value lifestyle completely on their own terms. They lock in on their career goals with intense focus. They dive deep into personal passions and hobbies that actually fulfill them, and they invest heavily in building deep, authentic friendships that provide real community and support. They don't look at their single life as a waiting room for a relationship. They look at it as the main event. They travel where they want, spend their money how they want, and protect their peace fiercely. Because they are not desperately trying to twist themselves into knots to fit someone else's expectations, they develop a profound sense of self-respect. They have proved to themselves that they can build a beautiful, stable, and adventurous life completely solo, which completely removes the fear of being alone. And right here lies the absolute ultimate paradox of human psychology. This exact level of self-contained contentment makes them incredibly, undeniably magnetic to everyone around them. Human beings possess an incredibly sharp instinct for sniffing out desperation, and nothing drives people away faster than the needy energy of someone trying too hard to be chosen. Conversely, nothing is more intoxicating than raw confidence and zero desperation. When you genuinely do not need anything from anyone, you project an unshakable aura of power and ease. High-quality people are naturally drawn to this authenticity like a magnet because it is so incredibly rare to find someone who is completely whole on their own. They don't have to chase anyone. Their sheer vibe and energy pull people toward them naturally, without any forced effort or dating games. This completely flips the power dynamic of their future connections. When these grounded individuals actually do decide to enter into a romantic relationship, it happens from a place of pure, conscious choice, absolutely never from a place of survival or loneliness. They are not looking for a partner to save them from an empty life, to pay their bills, or to heal their low self-esteem. Their life is already an incredible, thriving ecosystem. If they decide to let someone in, it is simply because that specific person brings genuine value, mutual respect, and peace that enhances what is already there. They approach love with a mindset of, I want you in my life, but I absolutely do not need you to survive. And that single psychological shift changes everything, leading to healthier, more balanced partnerships that are built to last. When you strip away all the superficial dating advice and look directly at the core psychology, you find that walking away from the dating game isn't a random emotional breakdown. It is a highly strategic, deeply calculated decision driven by 5 very specific psychological pillars. The first, and arguably most critical reason, is a massive upgrade in self-awareness. Most people get caught in an endless loop of dating the exact same type of toxic person wrapped in a different outfit, wondering why they keep getting hurt. But the individual who steps back has broken that matrix. They have taken a hard, brutally honest look in the mirror and recognize their own unhealthy patterns. They see exactly how their past choices led to anxiety or heartbreak, and they make an executive decision to completely stop the cycle. They refuse to repeat history, and they understand that the only way to avoid stepping into the same trap is to step off the battlefield entirely until they have completely rewired their internal compass. The second pillar of this mindset comes down to strict resource management. These individuals have come to realize a fundamental truth that most people ignore. Your emotional energy, mental bandwidth, and time are finite resources. You only have so much to give before you hit absolute burnout. When you spend all your days swiping on apps, overthinking mixed signals, and crying over people who don't care about you, you are essentially bleeding your bank account of mental peace dry. The mindful single decides to shut down that bad investment. They intentionally execute a massive pivot, taking that exact same premium reservoir of time and energy and investing it directly into their own personal growth. They channel that focus into building businesses, crushing their fitness goals, learning new skills, and upgrading their lifestyle. They realize that putting energy into themselves yields a guaranteed high return payout, whereas pouring it into casual dating is a massive gamble with zero guaranteed return. The third reason they successfully walk away is their commitment to deep, authentic healing. In modern culture, the standard advice for getting over a heartbreak is to get under someone new. People use rebound relationships, casual hookups, and constant romantic validation as a cheap, temporary band-aid to numb the agonizing pain of old trauma and rejection. But the person who chooses to step back rejects this toxic coping mechanism entirely. They refuse to use another human being as an emotional painkiller. Instead, they choose the much harder, much braver path. They sit in the quiet room with their own pain, loneliness, and discomfort, and they actually process it. They do the heavy internal lifting required to dig up old wounds, understand their root causes, and heal themselves from the inside out. By refusing to rush into a new relationship to escape themselves, they ensure that when they do eventually open up to love again, they are bringing a clean slate and a healed heart, rather than a suitcase full of unaddressed baggage. The fourth pillar is an unshakable commitment to high standards. When you spend a significant amount of time alone building a beautiful, peaceful, and successful life completely on your own, your tolerance for nonsense drops to absolute zero. These individuals know with absolute certainty exactly what they bring to the table. They know the depth of their loyalty, the value of their time, and the quality of their character. Because they have worked so hard to cultivate a premium life, they refuse to accept discount treatment. They will absolutely no longer tolerate bare minimum effort, hot and cold behavior, gaslighting, or mixed signals from anyone. They don't look at dating through the desperate lens of, will they like me? Instead, they look at it through the empowered lens of, do they deserve a seat at the table I built? If a potential partner cannot match their energy, respect their boundaries, and actively enhance their peace of mind, they are instantly disqualified, no questions asked. Finally, the fifth and ultimate reason they walk away is total emotional independence. The vast majority of people on the dating market are running on a deficit. They are desperately searching for a partner to tell them they are beautiful, worthy, smart, and important because they cannot say it to themselves. Their self-worth is entirely outsourced to the opinions and attention of others. The individual who steps back has completely flipped this dynamic. They have spent enough time in solitude to realize that validation is an inside job. They have generated their own confidence, built their own security, and validated their own worth through consistent actions and self-respect. They do not need a relationship status to prove they matter, and they don't need a partner's approval to feel complete. Their self-worth is entirely self-generated and unshakable, making them completely immune to the desperate urge to settle for less just to feel wanted. When you stop desperately needing a partner just to feel like a complete human being, your entire worldview shifts, and the way you look at romantic relationships undergoes a massive, permanent upgrade. Most people in the dating world are looking for a missing puzzle piece. They are trying to find someone else to fix their loneliness, cure their insecurities, or provide them with a sense of purpose. But when you step off that frantic treadmill, you realize that the absolute healthiest, most successful connections never happen out of mutual dependency. They happen when two entirely whole, self-sufficient individuals choose to come together out of pure desire. It completely changes the equation from "I need you to survive" to "I want you because you make a great life even better." This simple psychological shift instantly strips away all the toxic codependency, the constant anxiety, and the desperate pressure that suffocates most modern couples, allowing a relationship to actually breathe and grow on a foundation of genuine freedom. This mindset completely flips the script on how you handle conflict and relationship roadblocks. In a standard relationship built on fear and dependency, people will tolerate absolute nonsense, disrespect, gaslighting, emotional neglect, and blatant red flags, simply because they are utterly terrified of the alternative. They are so scared of being alone, changing their relationship status, or starting over from scratch, that they will repeatedly compromise their own dignity just to keep a partner around. But when a grounded person who has mastered being single enters a relationship, they carry a hidden superpower. They have zero fear of walking away, because they spent months or years building a solo life that they are absolutely obsessed with. They know exactly how peaceful an empty house feels. If a partner begins to bring chaos, disrespect, or consistent drama into their world, they do not panic, overreact, or beg for basic decency. They firmly enforce the boundaries, and if those boundaries are crossed, they calmly pack their bags. They aren't bluffing. They genuinely prefer the beautiful peace of their own company over the toxic company of someone who doesn't respect them. Ultimately, this level of detachment transforms love from a desperate survival mechanism into a high-end luxury. They no longer look at a romantic partner as a strict necessity for their happiness, financial stability, or mental health. Instead, they treat love exactly like a luxury addition to an already incredible life. It's like putting a premium sound system into an already flawless sports car. The car runs perfectly fine without it, but the upgrade makes the ride a little more enjoyable. By stepping back from the dating game and doing the heavy internal lifting, these individuals have built an absolutely unshakable internal foundation. Their self-worth is locked down, their peace of mind is non-negotiable, and their happiness is entirely self-generated. Because they operate from a place of absolute abundance rather than scarcity, they never find themselves settling for bare minimum effort. They don't need anyone to complete them, which means they are finally free to experience love in its purest, healthiest, and most empowering form. If you are sitting there watching this right now, feeling completely, utterly exhausted by the modern dating scene, I want you to take a deep breath and accept this video as your official, undisputed sign to pause. You do not have to keep running yourself into the ground for people who cannot see your value. You do not have to keep playing the text message games, analyzing mixed signals, and burning your precious emotional energy on low-effort connections. Deciding to take a step back from the frantic chase is absolutely not a sign of weakness, and it does not mean you are giving up on love or admitting defeat. In fact, It is the exact opposite. Stepping away from the chaos is a masterclass in psychological wisdom. It is a powerful, silent declaration to yourself and to the universe that you value your time, your mental health, and your future far too much to ever compromise them for a slice of cheap, temporary affection. It takes an immense amount of courage to look at a crowded room of people begging for attention and choose to calmly walk out the door to focus on your own life. So right now, I want you to officially drop the heavy burden of trying to find the one and completely shift your focus. Stop chasing people who are running away from you. Stop trying to force connections that clearly do not fit, and start investing every single ounce of that desperate energy directly back into yourself. Build the business you've been putting off, lock in on your physical fitness, upgrade your mindset, and curate a daily routine that brings you genuine, independent joy. The grand irony of human psychology is that true, authentic alignment only happens when you stop looking outward and start digging inward. When you firmly lock eyes with your own personal growth, build an unshakable foundation of self-respect, and become entirely obsessed with your own journey, an incredible shift occurs. You stop operating from a place of scarcity and start living in absolute abundance. You no longer need to chase anyone or anything because your energy becomes so clear, so grounded, and so undeniably powerful that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right love will naturally have to catch up to you.